Binge the full week of The Ray Taylor Show ad-free over at inspireddisorder.com/plus.
What you manifest in your mind, you can bring to reality.
Homicide, film from 1991, written and directed by David Mamet, starring Joe Mantegna, with also, it's got William H. Macy and who was the other guy? Got Bing Rames was the other guy. A lot of other great actors. Great movie. I had never seen this movie before. I'm trying to get into watching classics to review for Saturday's episodes. And this one was on Criterion. It's a neo-noir police procedural. Great. I don't know if it has any relation to the show Homicide. I don't know if that's a show that came from this movie or not, but it was a show that I enjoyed. I enjoyed police procedurals on TV, growing up. Of course, Law and Order and all those different shows were a lot of fun. So it has a lot of that kind of feel, at least the first part of this movie. Joe Mantegna plays Bobby Gold. There's a lot of tough language. There's a lot of racism being thrown around. Not your standard racism. Bobby Gold is Jewish, so you're getting a lot of the Jewish racism coming from some of the black characters in this movie. William H. Macy is Tim Sullivan. He's his partner, which he's not really in the movie that much. Because they are working on a big case, and kind of for this one, it's a lot of this movie is about Bobby Gold and how he's choosing to balance his energy between these two different cases. There's this big case that he's been working on with his partner, and they're getting close. But then he has this new case. There's this Jewish candy shop owner who got shot or killed. I don't know if she was shot, but she was definitely no longer alive. And it's in a poor black part of the neighborhood. And he gets kind of caught up in that case. And part of this movie is Bobby Gold trying to reckon with the fact that he's being drawn in these two different directions. And one of which is this, kind of taking him down this path of rediscovering his Jewishness, rediscovering his identity as a person who is Jewish, aside from somebody who is just a cop, who, allows people to treat him less than in order for him to fit in. And him reckoning with that. This movie has a lot of layers. The twist, or not necessarily a twist end, but the end of this movie is amazing. It hits hard, and it's kind of crazy because a lot of what this movie is discussing are things that are currently happening in our society today. This has this battle, this never-ending war that's gone on between the Jewish people and the anti-Semitic, white supremacist Nazis. And this war is being waged in propaganda, as it always has been. And propaganda today is used so prevalently to convince people to harm others in the name of some justified anger. Modern day propaganda, we have news organizations that label people exercising their First Amendment right. They label them as looters. They label them as rioters. They label them as criminals, while these people are just, exercising their First Amendment right. But these news organizations are doing that so much that a kid is on trial for murder because his mom drove him with an AR-15 to one of those protests, and that kid shot some people because he's been fed and lives in a world based on propaganda that's been fed to him. This white supremacist, just like it's propaganda is a way for people to control groups in order to do bad things. They're able to frame reality in a way to allow for bad things to happen to their targets, to the people that they want bad things to happen to. And it's a crazy movie where Bobby Gold is on this thing, and he doesn't really identify with his Jewishness. There's this crazy scene where he's like, the family of this lady that was killed, right? They're wealthy. Everybody in town, of the town where that candy shop was, all of the kids, everybody, there's this story that she has riches. She has just all kinds of money underneath the store. Like there's this story that every single person of every single age group knows that this old lady had riches and wealth and treasure underneath her store. A little over 4 years ago, I started The Many Faces. It's an ongoing series of abstract ink portraits. Each piece is improvised. Each piece is released daily. Start collecting now. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/TMF. That stands for The Many Faces. And save yourself 25% when you use coupon code RTS. That stands for The Ray Taylor Show, because that's what you're listening to, and I love you. So I want you to save 25% when you use that coupon code. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/TMF and use coupon code RTS to save 25% when you start collecting one of over 1,600 original ink paintings. By myself, I made them. Support me. I love you. Back to the show. Which was all bullshit. It was all propaganda. And it's propaganda that we find out later. But anyway, that's like the overarching thing that he's seeing when he's asking people questions. That, oh, she has like these riches, so maybe somebody killed her because she has all this stuff in her basement, right? The family is wealthy, so it's like, the grandma wanted to work down there because she didn't want to leave this store that she's had forever, despite the fact that the family is completely wealthy. And he goes to this wealthy family's place because they say somebody's been shooting at them. They saw somebody on one of the rooftops. The cop doesn't really believe it, is kind of just there to pacify them. He doesn't really have any respect for them because they are wealthy. He doesn't identify with them. He doesn't identify with his Jewishness. So he's kind of a self-hating Jew in that sense. And there's this great scene where he's on the phone with, I believe, his partner, but another cop, and he's just going off on how he doesn't buy any of this stuff, that it's all bullshit. Like, why do they think they're being attacked? Why would anybody attack you? You're rich. They're not going to but then, they're just paranoid. They have this Jewish paranoia. And he's like just going off on them for being Jewish and all this stuff. Hangs up the phone, turns around, and it's like the daughter was there the whole time and listened to him basically say shit on everything that contradicted his presence there. Like, he's saying to them, it's like, yes, I'm going to find out who did this. I'm going to see what's going on. I'm going to take care of it. Now he's really going to take care of it, because he just is that thing where you're talking shit about somebody and then you turn around and that person's standing right behind you. But in like the craziest way. Like when he turns around and sees the daughter sitting there, having just heard everything that he spewed out of his mouth, and to see just the look of complete, utter embarrassment and dread on his face. And he's like just begging, like, please, I'm going to figure this out. I'm going to, and then they hear what could be, backfiring. He starts to at least give it some attention, some legitimate attention. And the more he scratches the surface of this wacky theory that this Jewish family is being attacked by white supremacists, by Nazis, the more he goes down this rabbit hole. He sees what's happening. He sees behind the curtain. It's like, oh, and he runs into, while investigating, he runs into this, I guess they're Zionists, kind of militant Jewish people protecting, that are like, they organize to help protect each other because they know that they're still being attacked. Kind of the other extreme, but the only extreme that believes that this stuff is still really happening. Yeah, and it's about him wanting to fit in, like feeling so bad and regretful, and now kind of accepting that he, wanting to become part of his community, to become part of the Jewish community, and to use his abilities as a detective to help protect them. He wants to be part of their gang, quote unquote, for a term. And then he sees the propaganda, like the propaganda. He's tracked down propaganda that's handed out all over the city. This hate speech propaganda about Jews. Jews are the reason why the ghetto is the ghetto. They hoard all the money. They take all the money, right? It's a black community, so it's white supremacists pumping propaganda into a black community in order to hate Jewish people. Right? So you have that's how you get black people support white supremacist ideals, is through propaganda, because they think they're doing something good. And it's weird because, I'd never seen this movie before, but like recently there were, I think, athletes and some entertainers, black entertainers, that were spewing like anti-Semitic conspiracy theories kind of recently, like over the last year or two. It hit the news. I can't think of their names right now, but it's like, it's clear that propaganda is real and actually is still affecting people who grow up, I would imagine, who grow up in poor areas. Those people are fed propaganda to believe that the Jewish people are the ones to blame for them living in poverty. Not the systematic racism that exists, not the fact that they're consuming like copious amounts of Nazi propaganda. Join Inspired Disorder Plus today. Head on over to inspireddisorder.com/plus to join. Membership includes members-only discounts and deals. You get access to the Ray Taylor Show completely ad-free, as well as bonus episodes. You get access to the complete live painting archive. You also get access to every single podcast ever produced by Inspired Disorder, hosted by Ray Taylor. You get access to Ray Taylor's personal blog, as well as the opportunity to ask me any questions. So if you want to start a podcast, you're into art, ask me anything. And so many more things are being added every day to Inspired Disorder Plus. So sign up today, become a member, head on over to inspireddisorder.com/plus and become an Inspired Disorder Plus member today. So it's like this rabbit hole that Bobby Gold is going down. And like the end, when he finds out, obviously spoilers, go see this movie, but I want to talk about the end and everything. The end, when he finds out who did the murder, who actually killed this old lady, right? He's thinking it's the white supremacists actually did it. And when you find out it wasn't the white supremacists that pulled the trigger, It was the fact that their propaganda that the white supremacists has been pumping into this community, so much so that when he first started investigating this crime, everybody had the same story, that this old lady had treasure under her store. Right? You find out why they all thought that, because they've been pumped with propaganda for generations, telling them that the reason why the black man is poor and living in poverty is because of the Jewish people. And that propaganda is what inspired that kid to retaliate. Like, it's a manipulated situation. The white supremacist propaganda manipulated the black community in order to be violent against Jewish people, because that's the target of the white supremacist. I mean, not that the white supremacist is like, a Nazi's not like anti-black people either, but that's how the situation was. There was like an old Jewish lady in a store in a black community where there's not a lot of, it's just all black people, because of systematic racism and how, real estate was, done in a way back in the day where you couldn't just live anywhere if you had an excess of melanin in your skin. You were forced to live in certain areas. You were forced to be targeted by police and thus being given records that you have to overcome. Like, the system is set up for black people to fail in every way, but the white supremacist has convinced them to blame somebody else. Don't blame the system, blame the Jewish people. And it's disgusting. It's disgusting, but it's disgusting because it's true. It's disgusting because that's what Fox News is. That's what Newsmax is. That's what OAN is. That's what all these like news networks, quote unquote news networks are. All they're doing is pumping propaganda to people that they want to be violent against other people who threaten their money, who threaten their way of life in some way. It's like it's absolutely disgusting, and it's an amazing movie because it's a great procedural at first. Like, the detective stuff is great. I think it's shot really well. But then when he goes down that rabbit hole, like, I'm in it, man. I'm in the rabbit hole because it's like I have the skepticism he has, and then when he gets busted, it's like, okay, well, now he's forced. He has to do it. And as he's doing it, he starts uncovering these things, and you're with him the whole time. You're with Bobby Gold. A huge, great movie. Really enjoyed it. I'm sure I've seen other David Mamet stuff, but I really enjoyed this one. Homicide. It's on Criterion. I'm sure it pops up other places, maybe HBO. It's a great movie. Highly recommend you check it out. Obviously, it's called Homicide. It's from 1991. Just rethink why they're doing this propaganda. Like, they want people to get violent. Like, you see people at all these school board meetings. It's like the bad part of a James Bond movie where you have the villain twinkling their fingers while the James Bond is lying on the table and the big bandsaw has been turned on, and the villain, before he turns the table on to go saw him up, he has to tell him his whole entire plan before he does it. Like, that's what these people are doing in school board meetings where they're threatening violence. It's like, that's what they want. That's what the propaganda that they've been listening to is telling them, that because you need to take a vaccine, those people are the enemy now. And it's just crazy. So anyway, if you're living in our reality right now, Homicide hits different than it did in 1991. Just saying. New episodes of The Ray Taylor Show come out every single day. Subscribe on YouTube and everywhere our podcasts are found. Binge the full week over at inspireddisorder.com/plus. Buy Ray Taylor Show merch over at inspireddisorder.com. And follow the show on Instagram at Ray Taylor Show. Have a wonderful day, everybody. Peace out!